In 1921, a young Inuit woman named Ada Blackjack needed money for her sick son. That is the entire reason she said yes. Not adventure, not glory, not history, money for her son, named Bennett, who was sick. So when four young explorers showed up in Nome, Alaska looking for someone to sew fur clothing and cook meals for an Arctic expedition, Ada said yes. They told her it would take 1 year. They told her a supply ship would come after 12 months. They did not tell her about the polar bears. They did not tell her about the temperatures that froze everything, including hope. And they did not tell her because they did not know that the supply ship would not come after 1 year. That 3 of her 4 companions would walk into the Arctic ice and never come back. That the 4th would get sick and die in her care, and that she would be completely alone on one of the most brutal pieces of land on the planet. For not 1 year, not 18 months, 2 years, a woman who went to the Arctic to earn money for her sick son, and ended up doing something so extraordinary that military survival experts are still studying her methods 100 years later. You have never heard her name. That changes right now. Number 1, the expedition. History is filled with famous explorers whose names appear in textbooks and documentaries. But sometimes, the greatest survival story belongs to someone who never intended to become a hero. This is the story of Ada Blackjack. In 1921, Canadian explorer Vilhjalmur Stefansson organized an expedition to Wrangel Island, a remote Arctic island located north of Siberia. His goal was to establish a settlement that could strengthen Canada's claim to the territory. The island was one of the harshest places on Earth. Endless snow, freezing temperatures, violent storms, and roaming polar bears made survival incredibly difficult. Stefansson recruited 4 young men for the mission: Alan Crawford, the expedition leader; Fred Maurer, who had previous Arctic experience; Lorne Knight, a capable outdoorsman; and Milton Gala, the youngest member of the team. They also hired a 23-year-old Inuit woman named Ada Blackjack. Ada wasn't brought along because she was an explorer. She wasn't expected to hunt or lead expeditions. She accepted the job simply because she needed money to care for her sick son. Her duties were to cook, sew clothing, and help maintain the camp. In September 1921, the team landed on Wrangel Island, built their shelters, and settled in for what they believed would be a 1-year stay. Everything depended on a supply ship returning the following summer. Unfortunately, that ship never arrived. Number 2, everything goes wrong. At first, life on the island was difficult but manageable. The group hunted seals and other wildlife while carefully rationing supplies. Winter tested everyone's endurance, but they survived. Then summer came, still no ship. Unknown to the expedition, thick sea ice had prevented the rescue vessel from reaching Wrangel Island. It was forced to turn back. The stranded team had no idea. As food became scarcer, hope slowly disappeared. Then disaster struck. Lorne Knight developed scurvy, a disease caused by a severe lack of vitamin C. His condition worsened until he could barely stand. The burden on the rest of the group increased every day. Finally, in January 1923, Alan Crawford, Fred Maurer, and Milton Gala made a desperate decision. They would attempt an 80-mile journey across unstable Arctic sea ice towards Siberia, hoping to find help. It was an enormous risk. Ada watched the 3 men disappear into the frozen distance. None of them ever returned. Their exact fate remains one of the Arctic's greatest mysteries. Now Ada was alone with a dying man, and no certainty that rescue would ever come. Number 3, alone in the Arctic. Most people would have accepted defeat. Ada chose something different. She knew survival depended on learning skills she had never practiced before. Although frightened of firearms, she forced herself to learn how to use the expedition's rifle. Every successful hunt meant another day of life. She began trapping Arctic foxes for food and fur. She repaired clothing before tears became dangerous in the freezing temperatures. She built elevated lookout points to spot polar bears before they reached camp. Every task mattered. Every decision mattered. She also continued caring for Lorne Knight as long as she could. She cooked meals, kept him warm, and stayed beside him despite knowing there was little she could do. Knight eventually died in June 1923. For the first time, Ada Blackjack was completely alone. No companions, no rescue in sight, no guarantee anyone even knew she was still alive. Yet she refused to give up. Instead, she created routines that kept both her body and mind focused. She hunted whenever conditions allowed. She checked and repaired equipment regularly. She monitored the weather carefully. And every day she wrote in her diary. That diary became a record of courage, loneliness, and determination unlike almost any other in Arctic history. Number rescue at last. Summer finally returned. In August 1923, a rescue ship managed to reach Rangel Island after fighting through heavy sea ice. The crew expected to discover an abandoned camp. Instead, they found Ada Blackjack alive. She had survived nearly 2 years in one of the world's most unforgiving environments. The woman hired simply to cook and sew had outlived the expedition leader and every other member of the original team. The rescuers were amazed. Against overwhelming odds, Ada had accomplished what almost everyone believed was impossible. Number 5. The lessons of Ada Blackjack. Ada Blackjack's story isn't remarkable because she was fearless. It's remarkable because she acted despite being afraid. She never claimed to be a great explorer. She simply focused on the next problem that needed solving. She learned new skills because survival required them. She stayed disciplined even when nobody was watching. She created daily routines that kept despair from taking control. Most importantly, she proved that resilience often comes from ordinary people facing extraordinary circumstances. Her survival reminds us that strength is rarely something we're born with. More often, it's something we build one decision at a time. When life feels overwhelming, we don't have to solve everything at once. Like Ada, we only need to solve today's challenge, then tomorrow's, and then the next. Small actions repeated consistently can overcome even impossible odds. After returning home, Ada used the money she earned from the expedition to help pay for medical treatment for her son. Unlike many famous explorers, she never sought attention or celebrated herself as a hero. She simply returned to living her life. Today, historians recognize Ada Blackjack as one of the greatest survival stories ever recorded. Her courage wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, steady, and incredibly powerful. She survived because she refused to stop moving forward, even when the world around her had fallen apart. If this story inspired you, remember that history is filled with forgotten people whose courage deserves to be remembered. Subscribe for more incredible true stories that prove ordinary people are often capable of extraordinary things.